Alright, so spooky season is nearly in the rearview at this point, and now we can start looking ahead to the rest of the holiday season, and with it a range of new games dropping in November. And that would include calming indies and AAA heavy hitters, and at least one literal and figurative metagame. As always, this is not every game coming out in November, rather it's just a selection of 10 that I found to be particularly interesting, so if I leave anything out, just let me know in the comments below. But for now, let's go ahead and dive into what's coming down the pike for November, starting with Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. And this game takes place during the events that lead into Tears of the Kingdom, and if you've played hack-and-slash Warriors games in this vein before, then you'll have some idea of what to expect. Although Imprisonment does mix it up a little bit by allowing you to use Zonai devices in combat. You can go through single player or multiplayer co-op, and by all accounts this is looking to be the strongest of the 3 Hyrule Warriors entries. Personally, I only ever really dabbled in these games, but I know a lot of people hold them in high regard, and just love that formula, so I can see the appeal. Battles are massive, and the rewards come pouring out of your enemies like a garden hose so fast that it feels like the video game equivalent of a casino in terms of sensory overload. And while that might not be everyone's cup of tea, if it is your particular brand of action game, I'm sure it will hold a lot of appeal, so here's hoping it provides even more of that over-the-top frenetic action that people are so fond of when it drops on November 6th. Moving on, we've got a remaster of a game that I remember adding to my collection on the original Xbox, but now it's being remastered and updated for the modern era, and that would be Syberia, releasing on November 6th as well for PS5, Xbox, and PC. And Syberia is a graphic adventure game that first came out way back in 2002 on PC initially, before later getting ported to just about every other platform at the time. And now in 2025, it's kind of weird because it's technically a remake, but they're calling it Syberia Remastered, which is a little bit confusing. But anyways, it follows an intriguing tale of an American lawyer, Kate Walker, who gets sent by her firm to oversee the corporate takeover of a spring automaton toy factory. But upon your arrival, you find that someone who was presumed dead is actually still alive, and the current owner of the factory, no less. And I honestly don't know a lot about the story beyond that, but apparently the game was a commercial success back in the day, and while I had the game, I never actually got around to playing it, so maybe I'll finally take the leap after I learn just a little bit more about it and really see what this story has to offer. Next up, getting a little bit more lighthearted, we have A Pizza Delivery also dropping on November 6th for PS5, Xbox, and PC. A Pizza Delivery is a narrative exploration game that is focused on connecting with people. Based on the trailer footage, it sort of looks like a way less intense Death Stranding that's going to have a large focus on dreamy locations and puzzle solving, more than avoiding any horrifying BTs. But it still looks like there's going to be plenty of secrets to uncover throughout your playthrough, and there also appears to be a pretty wide range of colorful characters as well. And as someone who is as much a fan of chill, meandering games as I am brutal, struggle-core Souls-like games, I'm betting this will be a pretty relaxing world to slip into in between beefier affairs, again when it drops on November 6th. And speaking of chill titles to play, from the creators of Tetris Effect we have another entry in my favorite puzzle series of all time, Lumines Arise, coming to PS5 and PC on November 11th. And I rarely get excited for puzzle games, but Lumines is just so effortlessly fun to learn and fairly difficult to master that you can really have endless fun with these games. The music is always stellar, and I'm sure with the team from Tetris Effect involved that the visuals are going to be absolutely insane this time around. Not that they were bad in any prior entries, but man, Tetris Effect was just on a whole nother level with its presentation, and it's especially exciting to see a coat of paint this polished coming to one of my favorite games. Aside from particle-heavy visuals, there's also a variety of modes like weekend events, time attack, single-player journey mode, head-to-head, and VR support as well. But in addition to just forming and optimally arranging colored squares, there's also a burst mechanic that lets you stop time and build optimally until it resumes, which will allow you to build out bigger scoring opportunities. But even if you're not interested in topping any leaderboards, it's sure to be overflowing with relaxing tracks to enjoy. What will probably not be a relaxing time is our next title, Tombwater, coming to PC on November 12th. And the reason I don't think this is going to be very relaxing is because Tombwater actually is a Souls-like game in a western setting where you'll be exploring creepy locations and duking it out with a range of eldritch horrors, albeit in a 2D top-down setting. And this comes hilariously after I just said there weren't too many western horror games that I could think of after I spent some time with Darkwatch in that Spooky Games to Emulate video from last week. But more than just the horror aspect, it's definitely conjuring up some very old school nostalgia for me as somebody who grew up on Capcom's Gunsmoke on the NES. Although rather than just an arcadey top-down shooter, this looks to be much more fleshed out. At the very least, I'll certainly be checking out the demo for this game, and if it's something that looks appealing to you, you might do the same, as it is available on Steam right now in advance of its November 12th release date. And next up, we have what is almost certainly going to be the biggest drop of November, with Call of Duty Black Ops 7 hitting consoles and PC on November 14th. And not for nothing, but I do think this has some pretty stiff competition against Battlefield 6 this year. I've been completely obsessed with that game in between playing spooky stuff this Halloween season, but I'm going to give this one a whirl as well because, to be fair, Call of Duty games do have their own unique feel, and certainly a much faster pace in my experience, and, well, naturally their zombies mode. Taking place in 2035, the world is on the brink of chaos, and David Mason leads an elite JSOC team on a covert mission to combat the growing threat. Notable features for this latest entry include a revamped co-op campaign, 16 6v6 maps, and 2 20v20 maps at launch. And while I'll have to get my hands on it before I can really sort out whether this or Battlefield 6 will be the forever game that sort of steals most of my daylight time, I'm still looking forward to how it's received when it drops here in a few weeks, even if I'm not particularly thrilled with Microsoft's behavior lately when it comes to the Xbox brand. Next up, on a decidedly lighter note, we have what is probably the first solely VR game that I think I've ever featured here on the channel in a list like this, but I just couldn't help myself because that would be Deadpool VR coming to the MetaQuest on November 18th. And the reason I never mention VR games on the channel isn't because I don't love VR, I absolutely do, and play Beat Saber just about every day, they just rarely get me excited enough to go to the trouble of capturing and editing VR footage. But I might actually make an exception for this because, I'm calling it now, this will be one of the great VR games that gets brought up right alongside games like Arkham Shadow. I mean, assuming it all pans out mechanically, which I'm guessing it will, but by far the biggest draw here is Neil Patrick Harris doing the voice of Deadpool. There aren't a lot of other actors I would accept in that role outside of Ryan Reynolds, but NPH would definitely be on my shortlist. Naturally, it's going to have a ton of self-referential, over-the-top meta humor, no pun intended, but I'm betting the Merc with a Mouse FPS action chops are going to be pretty solid here. But again, we'll have to wait and see when it drops on the 18th. Next up, we have a game that I'm pretty sure I covered last year, but it seems like it's finally getting a wider release, and that would be Demonschool, coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC on November 19th. And I'm not typically a big tactics fan or anything, but I have flirted with the genre here and there, and one of the games I did enjoy of this type was the Disgaea series whenever I had occasion to play it back in the PSP days. This seems to be paying homage to a lot of that with a similar art style and humor, and while tactics games are hardly my genre of choice, I still appreciate what they're doing here, and if you like the idea of turn-based tactical throwdowns with big ol' weirdos while shifting between the human and demon worlds, this one's probably going to be worth a look. But now let's take a look at a game that I'm taking a cautious wait-and-see approach to, but I know it has a cult following of sorts as a Kirby spin-off follow-up, Kirby Air Riders, releasing on November 20th for the Switch 2. And don't get me wrong, I love Kirby and have been slowly working my way through his massive decades-long catalog of mainline entries and spin-offs. I just don't know if it needs to be a day one purchase for me necessarily. I'm sure it'll be bright, colorful, and have outrageously approachable controls as a follow-up to a single-button racing game on the GameCube though. And as someone who is generally speaking a fan of arcade racers, I'm positive this will end up in my collection sooner or later, and I am thrilled for the fans who have been waiting for this particular spin-off to make an appearance once more. Although speaking personally, I don't think I can justify playing this one until I've actually finished Kirby in the Forgotten Land, but anyways, moving on. Finally, for real this time hopefully, we actually have Terminator 2D No Fate dropping on November 26th. I mean, probably. And I say probably because this game has been delayed a few times due to some manufacturing difficulties at this point, but here's hoping now it actually hits its target next month because this game just looks so much fun. It is, at its core, a SNES-era 16-bit shooter, where you can play as Sarah, John, or the T-800, and aside from those crispy 16-bit visuals, it's also going to let you experience a lot of those iconic scenes from the movie in a completely new way, and I believe there are even some branching story paths in this game. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly, but yeah, either way, it looks like a whole lot of fun, and as somebody who grew up playing RoboCop vs. Terminator on the Super Nintendo, I'm actually really looking forward to this one. But that's going to be it for this one, and what are you excited for in November? Again, whenever I put together these lists each month, it's usually me just looking ahead and kind of cherry picking 10 of the games that I think just look the coolest. So if there's a particular title you're super excited for, or something that was a glaring omission you think I should have included, please do let me know in the comments below. Not just so you can lambast me, but just so we can chat about it a little bit, because I do love responding to your comments. Coming up on the channel, we'll be taking a look at some new Steam Deck pickups, and I might squeeze in one more horror games video if I have time this weekend, so stay tuned for that. As always, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch videos here on the channel. It really does mean a lot to me. Have an amazing day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.